Hello class, welcome to this week's video for causal arguments, my awkward week with Google Glass and making a visual argument, issues of privacy. So, as we know, with our essays we've been writing this semester, right, you're focusing on causes and effects. The effects of eating meat on the environment, the effects of stereotyping on American culture and society. And when we think about culture, what are the things that we wrote about in Essay 1? Same things that we're going to write about in Essay 2, in Essay 3, and Essay 4. Beliefs, traditions, habits, products. What causes us to believe this way, to behave this way, to create these products, to perpetuate in some ways these traditions, institutions, religions, foods, tastes. These are all effects of culture. Um, so gender roles, right? So for essay 2, dealing with stereotypes, you're looking at the causes and the effects of gender roles, stereotyping, culture. So again, to review, when we're writing about culture and we're writing about causes and effects, we're focusing on causes such as beliefs, traditions, habits, products, attitudes, and then we focus on the effects, those results. Again, the results lead to certain traditions, certain examples, certain products, certain institutions, certain religions, certain words, certain languages, right? So you have a lot, certain gender roles. So you have a lot to think about when focusing on the idea of culture, right? Not just with the environment and what we eat for essay 1, not just for stereotyping for essay 2 and gender roles, right? But also for essay 3 when we're dealing with national security and privacy. What caused the government to enact the Patriot Act? What are the effects of the Patriot Act? What causes them to monitor things? What are the effects? What are the causes of internet surveillance and the effects? So cause and effect plays a big role in all the essays, and you've been using it throughout the semester so far. So now what we want to do is recognize how we can maximize our incorporation of causes and effects within our essays to achieve carefully structured research in our academic arguments. So on page 241, understanding causal arguments. They look at the example of the obesity crisis. I thought they did a nice job examining the causes and effects of that. And on page 242, we have the terms for this week's reading. There's 3 major categories of causal arguments, and they can be found on 242. And hopefully you'll recognize how you used these categories when structuring academic argument essay number 1 on vegetarianism, academic argument essay number 2 on stereotyping and gender roles, and 4, looking ahead, academic argument essay number 3 on national security, surveillance, and privacy. First, you can look at a cause and then how it leads to effects, right? So one cause leads to multiple effects. Second, you could look at one effect and the multiple causes. So you could start with a cause, focus on multiple effects. You could start with an effect, focus on multiple causes. Or you might move through a series of links. One cause leads to this effect, which leads to another cause or another effect, right? Or a cause leads to a cause, leads to a cause, leads to an effect, right? Something along those natures. So when they look at the ways to structure it, I think pages 242 very clearly presents the 3 major categories. And then the book does a nice job of describing each of those categories on 243, 244, 245, and giving you examples of how they are helping to organize and structure arguments. Now, developing the causal argument, exploring the possible claims, very, very helpful reading on pages 249, 250, 251. There's all sorts of examples of different types of causal arguments. 255 brings in the idea of considering design and visuals, because we know everything's an argument. It's not just words, it can be designs and visuals as well. So, hopefully, we're feeling good about the major categories of causal arguments and how to incorporate that strategy into our compositions. Our next essay for class number 1, my awkward week with Google Glass, right? So if you'll work with me here and turn to page 237 in the book, what we can do is take a look at this sample essay by Haley, a student, right? I'm sorry, excuse me. It's not, I'm confusing this with the other sample essay that we read. This one, Haley is a consumer technology writer for the Washington Post, so we know about her ethos. And remember, Google Glass is a form of surveillance in some ways, right? And essay number 3 is looking at the idea of domestic surveillance anytime anybody is watching you or reading stuff, right? So whenever things are being videotaped, whenever they're reading your emails, reading your texts, listening to your phone calls, right? Any type of surveillance and the issue of privacy. So Google Glass, these glasses, right, bring up a very interesting issue, right? And I love how she starts the essay with the anecdote and with her appeals to pathos. And she focuses on all the different attention she's getting. Now, again, part of it is because Google Glass is a trend, it's a new product. But could we use this essay in some ways and relate it to issues of privacy? Absolutely. I mean, should someone have the ability to record you with their cell phone camera, with a government camera, with a private camera, or with Google Glass? So again, I thought it was an interesting essay. Like I said, I love the way she starts with the anecdote and then how she brings it back in the conclusion. It's one detailed example after another, and you might find yourself using this essay as a source for your academic argument, essay number 3. So here we go. If we look at the end of the essay, look at how she uses Rogerian strategy. But that also meant that more often than not, glass ended up perched on the top of my head the way you would wear your sunglasses indoors, or discreetly tucked into my bag in order to keep it from being the only subject of conversation. Why would I buy Google Glass? Not now, especially with that $1,500 price tag. The device has a lot of evolving to do before it's ready for the world. The world has some evolving to do before it's ready for Glass 2. I like how they take that idea and switch it, right? Google Glass has some evolving to do before it's ready for the world, and then the world has evolving to do before it's ready for Google Glass. When you take those ideas and you switch them, right, in your sentence construction, it's a figure of speech called chiasmus. The most famous example of chiasmus, it's on our figure of speech list, Chiamus, from Macbeth. What's fair is foul, and foul is fair. The JFK speech, ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country. It's also another famous example of chiasmus. She does a nice job using chiasmus in her conclusion, and as you notice, she also has alliteration in her title. For class 1, the last thing I had you take a look at was the visual argument, the issue of privacy, 751 to 752. Again, it's not just words, it could be cartoons. And you have the opportunity to cite sources for your essays, not only that are articles, but you can also cite videos. And feel free if you want to bring in any sort of cartoons or advertisements as well, because as we know, everything's an argument. And cartoons have a very interesting way of using humor to make arguments. Quite effective use of pathos. So, more to come. We're getting close to 10 minutes, so I'm going to push stop here and I will pick up with the Class 2 readings for Week 12, The Face of Professional Gaming, and Let's Charge Politicians for Wasting Our Time.